Hello and welcome to Gardening at 58 North. So in this video I'm going to be planting up the brassicas here in the brassica plot. So the brassicas I'll be planting up today are red cabbage, green cabbage, cauliflower and Brussels sprouts. This plot I've done a previous video on where I was preparing the ground, so I'll put in an iCard now so you can watch that previous video where I prepared the ground, got it ready. Since that video what I've done is we've erected this this frame here. That's to keep out any of the birds and also the cabbage white butterfly. Cabbage white butterfly lays its eggs on brassicas and its caterpillars are really bad for eating all the leaves away and killing the plant. So this is the netting will protect against that. We've also got cabbage root fly, so we're going to put some collars around the plants to stop that. But this mulch is also going to help stop the cabbage root fly from attacking the plants. Because those small flies, they lay their eggs in the soil right next to the stem. If they can't get to the soil, you're much less likely to get the problem. And the other thing I've done with this plot is I've covered it with seaweed and then mulched it with grass. That's to keep the weeds down, and it's just to make sure that it keeps the moisture as well, so it stays nice and damp. So I've prepared the whole inside area, but the outside area, the soil is prepared, but I don't have any mulch yet. Same with this section here, we're going to have some other brassicas. The outside area is going to be brassicas that aren't so badly affected by the pests, such as the curly kale and other types of kale, so they're going to go on the outside, but all the ones that are more affected by the pests are going to be on the inside. So I'll take you over now to the plants, and the reason why I'm starting them off in the greenhouse, getting them to a decent size, is there's two reasons. First of all, we have clubroot in our soil, so if I didn't do this, they'd be more susceptible to clubroot. The bigger you can get them before you put them in the soil that's infected, the less chance there is that it's going to be a problem. And the other reason is trying to get a head start on the season. So it's April now, just warm enough that things are starting to grow, and because I've grown them indoors, they're much bigger than they would be otherwise if I had grown them outside. So these plants here are Brussels sprouts. Coming along, I've got some cauliflower here, and then we've got red cabbage, and we've also got some green cabbage as well. So these are going to be planted out into this plot here. I've measured out the holes, so every hole should be 45 centimeters away from another hole. It's all staggered as well, and I've just basically made holes in the mulch here so I can see where to plant. So I've already gone ahead and made all the spacing correctly with the mulch. So all I need to do is plant up where I made spaces in the mulch. I should have about 15 of each variety if I calculated it out correctly. And I'm just going to start. I'll set up the time-lapse camera and I'll just start planting up now. So that's the brassicas are now all planted, and it's worked out quite well. I do have more of the Brussels sprouts. That's because they were from a different packet of seeds which had more seeds in them. So I've only got one spare of the red cabbage. I've got a couple of other I think green cabbages still in the polytunnel, but only about 2 or 3, so it's worked out quite well. Hopefully if any of these do die I can replace them with those ones, but I also have some more seedlings coming up which was supposed to be for a second crop. Maybe in a different part of the garden, but if needs be they can be used to replace some of these. But I don't think we should need to replace too many, even if 1 or 2 die, because the spacing is really close together. So I followed the recommendations on the seed packet, which was 45 centimeters apart for all these plants, and looking at it now I can tell you that this is actually a really close, tight spacing. Each plant will probably can be twice the distance apart, and you'll get a really big cabbage, really large plant. You probably will get a heavier yield if you grow them close together like this, because then you can take some out early on, and then as that gives more space to the other ones will get larger, and so you have a longer growing season and you can pick for longer. But if you want to get really giant cabbages, then this is quite a close spacing. If you want really big plants, you grow them further apart, you get a less yield overall, but each individual cabbage will be much larger. So they give you an idea of how fast these have grown, which is about a moderate speed. So these were planted, all these seeds were sown, apart from the Brussels sprouts, which were probably about a couple of weeks later. All the brassicas were sown on the 20th of February, and it's now the 20th of April. So it's been 2 months growth, and they're looking a decent size already. They should put on some quite strong growth now they're outside. What I will have to do is I'll have to be careful not to let them dry out too much. It's going to be quite a shock with them going from the polytunnel to the outside. They might dry out as it's quite a windy location. So I'm going to put the irrigation on now. I've also potted this up as quite late, so this is 7:30 now at night, and so it's going to have the cool of the night before the heat of the day, so it's going to have plenty of time to acclimatise before it gets warm again tomorrow. I'm also going to have the sprinkler system on this evening to make sure they're well watered in, also raise the humidity up so they don't have too much shock. So if done correctly, there shouldn't be too much shock for the plants, and they should grow on really nicely. If they do get shocked, there is the risk that they could go to seed. It's called bolting in cabbages, and they basically just go and start flowering, and then you don't get the crop that you want to get. It's not a big issue if the cauliflower over here does this though, because we'll just get a smaller crop of cauliflower, but we'll still get something. If it happens with the cabbages or the Brussels sprouts, then we won't get any crop, but it should be okay. These are all F1 hybrids, so they're all quite strong, vigorous plants. They're not normally phased by too much, so I'll look after them now. The soil should be quite rich already, but I'll give them a nitrogen feed in a few weeks' time once the roots have got down and they're starting to absorb a lot of the food from the ground. I'll give them extra nitrogen just to make sure they're growing really strongly. And once they do get the roots down, as I say, it will take probably a few weeks for them to get established, get the roots down. Once the roots are in the soil, they should put on some really nice strong growth, and we should have some really big plants by May or June. The days now are really long. It's still a little bit cold in the mornings, so the cold could slow them down a little bit, but luckily with cabbages and brassicas, they are hardy to a light frost, so that shouldn't be the issue here. The issue here will be the wind and any possible pests that might come and attack them. So I'll give you guys an update in a few months' time, probably kind of May or June time, and we should see much bigger plants, and we might even be starting to get the first crop of something like the cauliflower, which tends to be the first one to get harvested here. I might also try and get another video done of planting out the curly kale later on, and I might interplant some of these with the kohlrabi if these plants turn out to be quite slow growing. But I'll just hear how it goes. I'll give you guys an update in about a month or two.